how you perform against overseas teams, and your performances in Europe is testimony to that. But have you guys done something specific or analysis or work on that you think it can rectify your track record against in South African conference performances?
Morning, Jan. Morning, everyone. Yes, that we firmly believe that the difference between us playing against South African teams and the European teams is obviously the other South African teams match physicality, but they play a bit more dynamic and they actually play a bit. So if you look at the Stormers, the Sharks and the Bulls, even though they attack you differently, they keep you under constant pressure there. So we know that we'll have to chance our arm a little bit more on attack. We have to force them to make tackles and take the attack to them, to all the South African teams, because if you're just going to sit back and kick and defend, especially with the speed of the outside backs of all the South African teams, they're probably going to punish you.
As a follow-up to that, you guys were known for your expansive game, and in some games you really do show it. Do you still believe that there's a different way to play against different South African teams?
Yeah, I do think so. I think every team's defensive system is subtly different. I also believe that well, not believe, I know we're working extremely hard on our attack currently to be able to do that. Like I said, it's a little bit in a combination between confidence and chancing your arm a little bit. Sometimes to go for that 50-50 offload and just not force another ruck. I think the South African teams is pretty much similar to what Ulster and Leinster can do. If you're just going to keep on forcing rucks, the defensive system and the defensive collision is good enough and big enough to force that turnover. So we know that we just can't play from ruck to ruck. We have to be a little bit more, well, not a little bit, we have to be more dynamic in attack and also on kicking game. If you look at the top teams in the competition, where the Stormers, the Sharks, the Bulls, Leinsters, Ulsters, Munsters, I think currently their point of difference is their attacking kicking game as well as their defensive kicking game, if I could call it that. So yeah, I think it's been a work on for us on tour because of the conditions and circumstances, but especially back at home, we've worked hard on that.
Thanks for your questions, Jan. We'll go with Liam.
Good day, guys. Evan, just to add on to that question of Jan's, would you say that the way you are able to contract, or maybe the limitations placed on you in the way you contract, is that accentuated, do you think, more in derby matches as opposed to opposition in Europe?
Liam, I think you don't have to elaborate more than, I think at the local teams currently you play against 5 to 12 Springboks. Currently we don't have current Springboks yet. I do think that make a bit of a difference. But also, like I say, I think the Irish teams and the South African teams are the most completed teams in terms of they can damage you on attack, defense, kicking game, set piece. And I think it shows against the South African teams currently that we're not 100% in all that areas yet. Definitely striving to get there. And it's important for us to, like I say, on attack especially, create momentum, but also chance our arms. And in defense, we've got to stop that momentum as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Thank you, Liam. Morgan, as your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Coach. Just firstly, quickly, my first question, then I'll move on to a second one, is are there any injury concerns that you guys are worried about at the moment? I believe there are a few problems maybe in the back line. Possibly up front, you might have one or two guys that got a few niggles.
Yeah, unfortunately, on tour, Morgan, let's say this, the last 6 games, we unfortunately had a bit of injuries, Stormers and Sharks, and obviously the 4 on tour. So Franke, Horn, and Reinhard Noordnagel is probably still about. So Franke started training with us, but he's got to go through all the protocols, so they're probably about 3 and 4 weeks away. Jordan Hendricks is unfortunately managing a shoulder, so we'll reassess after another 2 to 3 weeks. Rehab, so he's injured. But the good news is Raps and Sanele has recovered from the injuries. They're training flat out. They're selectable. So, like I say, there has been some injuries. And like we always say, it's not nice, but it's an opportunity for someone else to come through. As you saw, Benko van Wyk has had an operation last week, so he's getting better and getting healed up, but he's unfortunately out for a little as well. So there is a couple of injuries. But for us is to find a way around it and to play in a certain specific way with the players as well.
And then just after your last game on tour, Coach Jock said that you guys would have to come home and reset and maybe relook at the way you guys are playing and how you're going about your business. So has that process been taken the last fortnight, and how is the mood in the camp with the players? Is there a degree of positivity that you guys can finish off well in the last 6 weeks, or has it been a battle to get the guys up to a mental framework back to winning ways?
Yeah, Morgan, I think a part of that comment is back at home. So obviously we feel we can play a little bit different at home than on tour at 1 or 2 degrees with the 40 kilometers an hour wind. That was a great experience to learn from and see and experience that. I mean, the majority of our group haven't experienced that, but being back at home, and like I said, especially against the Irish and South African teams, we feel we need to play a little bit more dynamic, whether it's attack or defense. The system is not just going to do it for you. There's a lot of intricacies in there that we challenged a little bit. So in terms of energy and excitement, the guys have really trained well and hard the last 2 weeks, ready to play at home again after we've played here. The last 6 games weren't here. So no, a real excitement about this weekend.
Thank you, Morgan. So what we'll do, we'll take Walter and then we'll finish off with Ross. And then Liam's got a follow-up.
Ek wil net hoor, Rooyen Dreyer, is daar enige nuus oor sy besering?
Ook beskikbaar, Walter, hy oefen goed. As ons 'n rare kans wou vat, soos hom dalk hy laaste week op toer kon gekies het. Ons het gevoel is nie al die travel en die risiko moet werk nie, maar nee, hy is fiks, hy oefen goed met hom.
En dan die Lions het nou 6 wedstryde oor en ek weet nie wat het julle uitgewerk, hoeveel van die 6 dink julle moet julle wen om in die top 8 te eindig nie. Maar ek sou raai dis 'n groot persentasie daarvan. Is die strategie om in hierdie laaste 6 wedstryde die sterkste kombinasie te kies, of gaan daar nog steeds rotasie wees?
Ja, Walter, ek dink mens is rig in die muur daar. Wat ons dink is jy gaan ten minste 4 moet wen met bonuspunte of 5 van die 6 wen om jouself 'n goeie kans te gee. So nee, ek dink dit is wat se ouens is beskikbaar en watter kombinasie voel ons is die beste vir die naweek wat kom. So ek dink dit sal 'n noodwendige rotasie wees vir ondervinding of eksperimentasie nie. Ek dink is wie ons voel gaan die beste doen vir die naweek teen die opponente.
Dankie, Walter. Ross and then Liam, then we can close it up.
Thanks, how's the cash? The Sharks have struggled without their Springboks in the URC this season. Do you think that that's sort of opened a door for you guys to make quite a big statement this weekend against them, also with them still to miss a few of their big guns?
I think if you look at their performances, I think they obviously having guys like Sia and Eben and Lucanio and all of them available will lift any team. I think if you're going to sit back and relax about the result against the Stormers, even though it was at home, I think you shouldn't forget that they travelled back and they also were on a mini tour. And obviously after that result, they'll be ramped up and psyched up and ready to go. But also saying that opportunity for us to go head to head against a team where if they're slightly off in confidence, it's important for us then to capitalize. If they're not, then we got to find a way to squeeze them and try and force our game plan on them.
And having had 4 losses in a row in the URC, does that add a bit more pressure to the guys and to try and get out of that funk?
Yeah, we're obviously desperate to get a result, and especially get a result at home, and even more so against the South African team. So we're well aware and ready and excited as a group to take them on this weekend. Whatever we can do in preparation to get us ready and as good as possible, we're doing that currently.
Thanks, Ross. Liam, you got the last one.
You actually just partly answered the question I wanted to ask. I want to add, so the Sharks have delivered a bit of a mixed bag, and there have been games where they've operated well with and without their Springboks. Do you think the standard that they set in that game against Edinburgh is perhaps the one that you should be preparing for? Because they played that game with, without quite a few of the Boks.
100%, definitely, Liam. If you're gonna allow them to squeeze you, and they get set piece dominance, because of the way they want to play, it's almost that they squeeze you into a corner where they try and force and suffocate you. So I think what the Stormers did well is they managed to break their defensive pressure in somehow. Some of it was with attack, some of it was with kicking, and also with set piece. So 100%, I think we'll get the same kind of team and mental preparation from the Sharks that we saw against Edinburgh.
Thank you.
Happy days. I think that's where we can leave it, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work, and we'll chat in the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good luck for the week.
Dankie,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.